Over 20 years ago, I did work for a computer client of mine, and I was asking if they had particular software for their computer that I needed to reload. And of course, they went in the desk drawer, they pulled out a stack of stuff this big, and we're going through that, only to not be able to find what we're looking for. And that client said to me, "Don't you hate people?" That was just an awesome line. Yeah, I hate people. When they're family, it's worse. This is a device that would plug into the cigarette lighter in the car, and it breaks out to a cigarette lighter and a cigarette lighter and 3 USB ports. A 1 amp, and a 2.4 amp. Can you look and see all the goodies in there? Isn't that nice? This is in the wife's car, and it keeps blowing the fuse. There's a fuse in the plug here, which I'll open up, and this fuse, which is here, keeps blowing. It blew once, and that can just happen, so I got a replacement in a 5-pack, and then it blew again, and then I replaced it, and now today I find it's blown again, so I have just a couple left. The "don't you hate people" comes from the coffee and crumbs and shit that is spilled in this all the time. So I want to see if that's the problem. Now, I did have the wire routed as such where I was thinking maybe it was shorting, against metal and had compromised the insulation. That's not the case in this case. So I know there's gunk in here. I just want to see how bad it is. It may completely fall apart when I open it. I don't know. We're going to find out together what is in this thing and how it's constructed, and we'll see if I can clean it, reassemble it, and then I'm going to leave it in the house and test it for a while on a 12-volt power supply for probably a few days at least, maybe even a week. Plugged into this thing in the car is one of those FM transmitter type jobbies, which looks like, I have one right here, something like one of these guys. Plugs in the cigarette lighter, and you Bluetooth in with your phone, and I've reviewed a number of these things. So whatever one she has in the car has been there, and it's been there, and it works. You plug it in, it works. And there's also a dash cam that's plugged into the other cigarette lighter connection, and the USBs generally are not used. I had cables plugged into them, but then that goes on the floor where more coffee spills on them, so perhaps it shorted that out. I don't know. But anyway, it looks like this opens. That might be all we need. All right. It seems to be fairly well constructed, and there's no shit spilled in it. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. The board somehow will come out. I don't see any screws. Is that one? No. It's definitely free-ish at this point, but it does not want to come out entirely. And it looks like I might have to take this stuff out. That doesn't want to move. That sort of comes out. The solder job is not the worst I've seen, and I don't think anything there is shorting. The board still doesn't want to move. This comes out. Ah, there we are. Okay, so that's really it. There's not much to this thing. So nothing internally looks like it has shorted as such. So I'm just going to get see the crumb. I don't even know what this stuff is. It's abominable is what it is. I'll just kind of clean all the crap out. Let's see here. Okay, that's really it. There's an LED, right? It's just there. Let's get some power. I've already replaced the fuse with a good one. And let's see if it comes to life any. Just really looking for the blue light to come on. Okay, got the jump pack. It's either going to work or it's going to pop the fuse almost immediately. We have a blue light. There it is there. Okay, seems to work. So I'm going to reassemble this off camera, and I kind of want to do a couple other things first, actually. First off, this can possibly be tightened. It's tight enough, so that's good. And the next thing I'm going to do is put that down. I got some stuff here. This is spick and span. And we're just going to go ahead and spray that down. I will agitate that with a screwdriver just in case there's crap in there. I'm thinking sugar or something in the coffee might be causing failure. And now I'm going to hit this with the compressed air, dry it out real good, leave it for a bit, and then we'll try it again. Okay, all reassembled. Got everything back. It was not terribly tricky. Had to get the collars for the 12 volts in place, and the case was a bit of a pain to line up. Had to get the LED to go in the little slot in the front thing. Everything's been blown out with compressed air, and if it blows up now, it blows up now. If it doesn't, then we'll keep testing. It works. Here is that thing I showed before. Plug in. It powers on, so we'll leave that. It says 12.1 volts, fine. Here's another one. That's good. We can load it down with that. That powers up too. Okay. And for USB, I have this video light from China. Does it still work even? It says welcome. Yeah, it turns on. Battery could use a little chooch. Not that it needs any, but for something. Let's see. Here is cord. We'll plug that in. And we'll try each of the USB ports. Yes, we have a battery indicator. There's glare. It's there. So that's charging. That's charging. That's charging. All of them work. So this device is functional. Now, is it possible it's the devices in the car? Sure is. Because they're plugged directly in. So what I've done temporarily is the two things that are in the car that run off the 12 volts are one of these droppers, like I said, and that works alone by itself, and a dash cam, and that works alone by itself. And You know, you'd think she'd say, hey, you know, every time normally when I turn the car on, I get this of the dash cam. If you were to be driving, and let's say you got to a traffic light and you unplugged that, about 10, 15 seconds later, it would make that sound. Did it ever do that while you're driving? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? It either did or it didn't. If you had the radio on too loud, which you weren't using because the fucking music thing that broadcasts FM to the radio would have shit out at the same time, it's just fucking infuriating when people don't give you the full story of what the fuck is going on. And I've told this story in the past. My dad called me up once and he says, my dishwasher isn't working right. Now, he's got an old dishwasher from the 60s, a Hobart, KitchenAid by Hobart. And it's stainless steel and it's a tank and you know the deal, but it's been there. It works. And I said, oh, okay, what's the problem with it? Your mother says the dishes come out dirty. Okay, come out dirty. So you've told me so far that your dishwasher isn't working, and I asked you what the problem was, and you said it's broken. Yeah. Just infuriating. I said, well, I guess I'm going to have a visit from the computer technician to find out what's wrong with your dishwasher. So I went there after work back in the day. And my dad is cheap. I've mentioned that many millions of times. And I said, you know, we're going to have to turn this on. Why is that? Because you can't tell me what the problem is. So I have to see. So he finally agreed to that, and we turned it on, and it starts going through the motions, and it starts taking water. Now this thing, because it's old school, will start the pump immediately and start taking water and doing its thing. And so the pump's running, and it's taking on water because you heard the water valve open, and it's just going. And it's running and running and running and running and running, and things aren't sounding right. So I said, I think your drain valve is stuck open. He says, how do you know? And I opened the door, and all the water it took in, there was no water in the machine. I said, it's not on the floor. It's got to be going somewhere. That machine has a separate drain valve, which is solenoid actuated, and we took the kick plate off of it, and sure enough, you could see it was stuck open. So he got a pair of vice grip pliers and a bunch of WD-40, PB Blaster, whatever it was that we used, and worked it manually. It's got a spring that's supposed to send it back, but I mean, this thing was stiff. It just didn't move. And after lubricating it, it's been 10 years. It's still working fine. But I wasn't told what the problem was, and I had to find out myself. So, like I said, it could be the music, but there's nothing that would cause that to fail. The only other thing it could be is the dash cam wire that runs up to the dash cam. So what I've done is I've plugged the dash cam in directly to the cigarette lighter without this thing, and I'll have to check that to see if the fuse in its plug blows. And if it does, then I've narrowed down the problem. But I have serviced this thing, and it seems to be working. I will leave it with these devices plugged in. I'll find another. I have like a USB light or something I can plug in here so it'll constantly draw current. And I'll just leave it for like a week, and we'll see if the fuse blows. I couldn't imagine that an FM transmitter and a dash cam are pulling so much current when nothing is actually even being used in the USB ports to blow the fuse in it. And the fuses that I'm replacing it with are identical to the amperage rating of the original. So that's really it. There was not much to do here except clean this guy up, and that's really it. It's there. It's been blown out with compressed air. I hit it with some simple spick and span, because that's what I had. And that's it. I'll see if this blows. I'll leave it for a week plugged in with that USB light thing. And if it does, then this is faulty. If it doesn't, the problem is obviously downstream. So this way, we can simply follow the current path and find where the problem is. So that's really it. That's going to wrap this up. I don't have anything more to say at this point, so thank you so much for watching. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.